Okay, so you're not even hold it to where you can see me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess change. You know, switch the camera. So you see me? Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so we started with the we left off last week with the section on wudu. I think we just covered the farad aspects of wudu. So we're just gonna go do an actual tutorial to show you how to do the wudu. I'm using it in what's called an ina. Basically, it's a just like a kettle. You can do it using the running water. The traditional way, though, is to not use a lot of water. So the traditional way is to use like a kettle or something. And so when one would start, they would start and say Bismillah. But this first Bismillah is not the Bismillah of what's called Raf al-Hadatha. This is the Bismillah of the Sunnah aspect of performing the wudu. So we would start here, like so, Bismillah, and so we're going to wash the hand 3 times, the right hand first. And every time you do a limb, you want to renew the water by placing the hand into the kettle and like so. So let's see that. Right hand first, and then you want to do the left hand. This time, we're only doing it up to the wrist. And then we want to do the rinse the mouth. See that. Remember, 1 time is what is required. The 2nd and 3rd time is the Sunnah. So then the nose. Now at this part, when you begin to wash the face, this is the beginning of the farad aspect of the wudu. So if you want to, so at this point you would make the niyyah or the intention to rafa hadatha, or to remove the impurity. Bismillah. Start with the top of the head. Get all of the face. For the brothers, if you have a beard that's spotty like mine, where you can still see skin, then make sure you want to rub and get all of those parts of the face wet. If the beard is like full to where you can't see the skin in those areas, then just wiping over it like that is sufficient. But I said mine is spotty where you can still see the skin, so you want to really make sure that you get all those spots. Now at this point, we want to do the hands up to the elbows after the face. And so when we do the hands up to the elbows now, we want to make sure we get in between the fingers. You have to rub it like this. Sure that the nails. Then you want to do the left hand. Remember, 1 time is what is required. Um, the second and third time is sunnah. If you're doing it with the water running, then you could do like that, but make sure still that you rub. When it comes to the foot, now you don't have to do like this, like you did with the fingers, but it's sunnah to first start sprinkle the water, the top right there, and then go back. Oh, I'm sorry. So after you do the hands, then you do the head. Start at the top, you go to the back. Sunnah is to bring it back like that. And then you do the foot. Once is all is what's required. The second and third is the sunnah. That is the wudu. Now we're gonna go over some details, so you can just switch the camera. How we switch the camera? How do I switch the camera? Okay. Okay, brother Ali, you can put the text up now. Okay. Bismillah. So, some things I want to point out about the wudu. According to the Malikiya, you're supposed to use as little water as possible. I said, but you can do it, running the limbs under the faucet, if you would like. It's best to preserve water and to not be wasteful, though. That is the sunnah of wudu. And so, who is? And so, and so he says here, sunnah al-wudu. وغسل اليدين إلى الكوعين عند الشروع. So the sunnah of wudu is washing the hands to the wrist. It's rinsing the mouth, sniffing water into the nose, blowing water out of the nose, return the wipe of the head, wiping the ears, renewing water for wiping the ears, and keeping the obligations in order. All right. If one forgets a fault, he should wash the limbs and that which came after it, if he remembers it soon after. So as you can see, like when we were doing the wudu, when we were doing the wudu, we did it in a certain tartib, like in a certain order. When we did we went back and wiped the head, the first wiping of the head, that's the fard aspect. The second wiping of the head going back, that's sunnah. And it's also sunnah to renew the water. Every time you wash your limb, it's sunnah to renew the water. Okay.
And so the fada'il of wudu. The fada'il of wudu, these are the virtuous acts of wudu. And the virtuous acts are the tasmiyah, or it is to say the bismillah. All right? 1 second. I skipped something. Oh, I forget this. Yeah, I did forget something. I'm sorry. So when you wash the limb, if you forget a faulted aspect, you should wash the limb and the limbs that came after. If you remember soon thereafter, you should wash only the limb. If a long time is expired, has passed, then you repeat any prayers that you prayed with the deficient wudu. Okay? If one forgets something which is a sunnah, that he should only perform what he missed, and he does not repeat the prayer. If a person has missed a portion of the limb, he must wash that portion of the limb with the intention. So then a person must renew the intention, because that the faulted aspect, remember, it has to be done with the intention. If he prayed before washing the portion, he must repeat that prayer. If one remembers not having rinsed the mouth or the nose after he began washing his face, he should return to what he forgot until he completes the wudu. Now, so at this point, are there any questions? Okay. So the virtuous acts of wudu is the bismillah. He said, and then using the siwak. The siwak is the toothstick which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use to clean his teeth. So cleaning the teeth, like before you do wudu, this is a virtuous act of wudu. He said, وَزَاعِدَ عَلَى غُسْلِهِ أُولَى فِي وَجْهِ يَدَيْهِ, and to wash the parts, like more than once. Also, this is also virtuous. وَبِدَايَةِ بِمُقَدِّمْ الرَّأْسِ, and also to start at the beginning of the head, and ترتيب السنة, and do it in order. وَكِلَّةِ الْمَاءِ عَلَى عَدُوٍ, and so we mentioned that, and that is to use as less water as possible. وَتَقْدِيمَ الْيُمْنَ عَلَى يُسْرَى, and to always start with the right and then the left. وَيُحِبُّ تَخْلِيلَ أَصَابِعِ الْيَدَيْنِ, and to go between the fingers. وَيَسْتَحَبُّ فِي أَصَابِعِ الرِّجْلَيْنِ, right, and also between the toes also. But with the toes, it's mustahab. It's highly recommended. And we mentioned also already about brothers with the who have facial hair. Like if you have facial hair where you can still see parts of the jawline and things like that, then make sure you want to rub all of the skin in that area. If the beard is so full that the skin is not visible there, then just wiping over the beard is sufficient. Okay, so this next section is the fasl nawaqid al-wudu. So these are the things which invalidate the wudu. Yeah, go to that part. Let me see here if you got the glasses. Yep, okay. Yeah, you got the right one. So fasl nawaqid al-wudu. Nawaqid al-wudu ahdath wa asbab. So the things which nullify the wudu, or the things which make you ritually impure, are what's called ahdath and asbab. The ahdath are the direct nullifiers. These are things, the word hadatha in Arabic, it means like something happened. Like literally, that's what it means, hadatha. Or a cause. So he says the ahdath are bowl, which is like urination, gha'if, which is defecation, ar-rih, which is passing gas, or madhiyu, madhi, and wadi. Okay, and we're gonna talk about those words madhi and wadi. And so the madhi is like the basically like the pre-cum. Like if a man has if a man is sexually aroused, that which exits the penis, which is not semen, but what comes before it, then that's madhi. And wadi is what comes after, like after a seminal ejaculation. So basically, if anything exits the body, this is one way to remember. If anything exits the body through the penis or like through the vagina or through the anus, then these things are direct nullifiers. These things make a person ritually impure to perform acts of worship. And if they do those things, if those things happen, hadatha, then they must perform wudu. He said, well, asbab, he said, and so then the causes, so this is the other classification. The asbab, they are nawm thaqiyah, which is a heavy sleep, wa ighma, which is unconsciousness, wa sukra wa junun. The unconsciousness, it can happen through either a person becoming intoxicated, or if a person like literally loses their mind, like if they're clinically insane or something like that, right? Well, kublata, kissing. Well, lamasa mar'a. Well, lamasa mar'a here, touching a woman if pleasure is intended or found. Now, what a person can lose their wudu even if they didn't intend to find sexual pleasure by touching the opposite sex, but it happened. Like say, for example, a man touched a woman and he intended, to get some sexual gratification out of it, then he will have to do wudu. Say, for example, though he touched her and he initially didn't intend to, but he got some sexual gratification out of it, then he must also perform wudu. He says touching the penis with the inside or sides of the hand or the palm of the fingers. So if a man touches his penis with the palm of his hand without any barrier, then he must perform wudu. And the same like with the woman with the vagina, right? So these are what's called the asbab, right? So let's go back over them. So if a person uses the restroom, if they do number one or number two, then they must do wudu. If a person passes wind, then they must do wudu. If a person has some sort of emission from the sexual organs, then they must do wudu. What's meant by heavy sleep here in regards to the asbab is like if a person is, my teachers explained to me, like say for example, if you fall asleep and someone calls your name and you don't respond, then that's considered heavy sleep. Or if something is in your hand and it fell out of your hand, then that's considered heavy sleep. Because we know that we can sometimes doze, but we can still be, semi-cognizant. We could be cognizant of things around us. We can decipher sounds and everything like that. That's not considered heavy sleep. But again, heavy sleep is, your sleep to the point to where if something was in your hand that you dropped it, and or if someone was to call your name, you would not be able to respond. So if any of those things happen, then a person must make wudu. Now, so Brother Ali, go up on the text and make sure I want everyone to see where I'm reading at. Now go up. Yeah. Yeah. So he says, ومن شك في حديث وجب عليه وضوء إلى أن يكون مساسا فلا شيء عليه ويجب عليه غسل الذكر كله من مذي ولا يغسله أنثيين. المذي هو الماء خارج عند الشهوة صغير تفكر أو نظرة أو غيرها. So he says if a person has doubt about hadatha, which is a direct nullifier, he must perform wudu. So if you have doubt, you don't know if something happened, then do wudu. He says this is unless he has constant doubt, which is waswas, in which case he does not have to do anything. One must wash the entire penis if he experiences the madvi, but does not have to wash the testicles. The madvi is the emission that occurs when one has minor pleasure by thinking, looking, or the like. All right. So, and the ulama has said that like a person has constant doubt, like if a majority of the time when it's time to pray or do something, then they don't know. But like if a person, like if this happened once or twice a day, then this is not considered constant doubt or waswas. Right? Now. So go up in the text again. He says, so it is not permissible for one who does not have wudu to pray, to perform tawaf, that is to circumambulate the Kaaba, to walk around the Kaaba, touch a copy of the Quran, or is covered with his hand, a stick, or the like. This is the exception of a portion of the Quran that he is studying from. Now, what's meant here is not the English translations that that people have. What's meant here by touching the Quran is the actual mushaf. That's the actual all Arabic text of the Quran. So if a person does not have wudu, then they can't touch that.
Ahmad, we did have a question. I said we did have a question. Did you want to do questions at the end, or did you want to ask them as we're going?
Let me finish this little section right here. Then I'll take a question.
Okay.
The other exception is a low. Now the low, like these are like the wooden tablets, which kids use, and mainly like you see them used in Africa, where they write verses from the Quran on these tablets in order to memorize the Quran. So he says the child, in regards to the rules of touching the Quran, is the same as the adult, meaning the child who is not in a state of tahara may not touch the mushaf. He must not perform the salat. He must not, he can't make tawaf around the Kaaba. So he says, but the sin would be on the one who allowed the child to touch it. Again, because the child is not what? The child is not mukallaf. And then he says, whoever intentionally prays without wudu is a non-believer. He's a kafir. And we see refuge in Allah from this. And this is because like if a person, and this goes to like Aqidah. So in Aqidah, or in our belief system, we don't say that actions take a person outside the fold of Islam. We say that لا شيء خرج من إلا من دخل فيه, that nothing takes a person outside the fold of Islam except which brought him in. And which brought a person inside the fold of Islam is belief. It's belief, and it's testifying with the tongue. Now, if a person intentionally prays without wudu, it's considered like a person has made the haram halal. And so this is an act of, so it becomes then an act of disbelief, if you understand what I mean. So if a person doesn't pray, as long as they know that prayer, for example, is obligatory, then they're still a Muslim. But the moment they begin to, so even if they don't pray, as long as they know that prayer is obligatory, then they're still Muslim. They're just a sinful Muslim. But a person can pray, and if they don't think that the salah is obligatory, then they become a disbeliever on the account of that belief. So likewise, if a person prays intentionally, knowing that they do not have wudu, knowing that they have not passed the requirements, which would make prayer or salat in this instance permissible, then that person, in fact, does not believe. And we seek refuge in Allah from this. Now, so what was the question?
Yes, I had a question earlier, but because I'm on a computer, I didn't know how to mess with it. But my question was, it had to do for the women's, like, you know how like we have to wear our jihad. Like, let's say we have our jihad and we somewhere public, but we do our wudu real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
How will we wash the top of our heads if we have our scarf on? Like,
so the Maliki and the Maliki madhab, the woman, she must remove the hijab and just wipe over the head. If you go, did you see the part of the portion where I was performing the wudu?
I actually came in a little late. Sorry.
Okay. Well, it's recorded, so you can go back over it. So basically, you would just wipe the front of the head, from the front to the back. Just wipe over it. Your hair, your actual hair, though, and then put and then put the hijab back on.
Gotcha.
As long as now, I know women sometimes have braids and things like that. As long as as long as the braids aren't three parts, you can still wipe over them. If it's like 2 parts, you know how you got the twisties, you can still wipe over it. Well actually, in wudu, you can even wipe over the braids. It's just in ghusl you will have to take them down. So yeah, so just wipe over the hair. I said that portion it's in the video portion. So you can go online afterwards and see. Okay.
Yes. Also, I don't know how this is gonna sound to you, but I just wanted to ask, like, are these rules are like man-made, or like is it like something like traditionally, like from the religion? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So no, this is from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Usually, when going over text like this, especially at this level, we don't give the proofs because at the beginning stage, one couldn't decipher, or weigh the proofs anyway. But if you want, I could give you, I can give to Brother Ali the proofs from the Quran and from the Sunnah, detailing these acts of worship.
Sure. Yeah. Because it's very interesting. These are deep stuff,
Yeah, I said it can get really detailed. I said, and this is just really like a drop in the bucket. Like it's a lot of things he doesn't discuss in this text, but it gets very, very, very detailed. Very, very detailed. This is just like the bare minimum. So, okay. So, Brother Ali, so if you can continue with the text, go up. Yeah. So for about it. Okay. So
Sorry, Shaykh. I have a few questions. Do you
okay.
want?
Go ahead.
Okay. A couple of them are from my wife, but okay. If you're not sure if you passed wind during the prayer, right? Because doubt invalidates wudu. And during the prayer, you're doubtful whether you pass wind or not. Does this then nullify the wudu also?
So the doubt we spoke about earlier was in regards to whether one was in a state of tahara. There's a hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically mentioned that if a person was actually praying and they didn't know whether they passed gas, that if, as long as they didn't smell it or they didn't hear it, then they should continue the prayer.
Okay.
So the doubt that we were talking about earlier was in regards to before the prayer even started.
I see.
Mm.
Okay. The second one is that if someone has an issue where they are continuously passing wind, does this classify it as like a chronic issue that can be ignored? Or is there some kind of like standard for like how much is enough to where?
So like a chronic issue to where like a person can't get through an act of worship?
Yeah, the someone said that it was they couldn't even make it through their wudu without passing more wind, like through trying to perform wudu.
Now, if one is performing wudu and one passed gas while performing wudu, as long as they weren't finished, then they should just keep performing the wudu.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, if they after they had finished, if they had passed gas, then they would have to do the wudu again, unless it was a chronic issue, to where a doctor, said it was an issue, then that's something different.
Yeah, I guess what would be the threshold of something being considered a chronic issue? Would you have to go to a doctor for them to tell you that? Or is there some kind of standard where you can kind of determine for yourself, like, that this is extremely difficult to do anything, because of this?
And Allah knows best, but I would say is the standard would probably be for the same standard for like what's like if it was happening like a majority of the time, to like 3 or more prayers or something like that, or like I said, they couldn't get through the wudu, then one could probably say that, but it was always best to go to a doctor though.
Okay.
To get an expert opinion. In Islam, like I said before, we're always told to rely upon experts. Right? Allah says in the Quran, ask those who know if you don't know. So any medical cases or excuses, one should go to the proper, experts to deal with that. And if they made that determination, then there would be dispensations.
If just brought up something else, I'm sorry to take too much of your time.
No. Bismillah.
So when you mentioned if someone passes gas during making wudu and just to continue making wudu, does this include if they pass gas after performing an integral of wudu, like washing the face? Should they rewash the face, or should they just continue?
They should continue,
okay,
because the other integrals haven't been done yet.
Okay, all right. And then what about, it said if anything passes the front or rear entrance, what about women who sometimes pass wind through the front? Like if air comes in there, kind of there's a word for it, but I feel like it's kind of foul. But
yeah. This is talking about the like passing of gas, like not.
Okay, so that doesn't nullify wudu then.
Right.
Okay, and then as in regards to kissing, is it any sort of kissing, or because I've heard that specifically kissing on the mouth, but is it any kind of kissing between two members of the opposite sex that would nullify wudu?
Yeah, the text here just says kissing. Some ulama have said kissing on the mouth. Some have said the kissing on the cheek wouldn't nullify it. Again, the Malikiya, we have a ruling which is called it's called Madrasat al-Dhatiyya, like what is the intention? Right. So if one so there's like cultural kisses, a person might kiss someone on the forehead or something like that. one doesn't intend to derive sexual pleasure from it. But if it's, you know, like any kiss which one intends to derive some sort of pleasure from it, then this will be a nullifier. And remember also, like we said, even if a person sometimes doesn't intend to get pleasure, but they touch the person of the opposite sex and they got pleasure, then that would nullify it also.
Yeah. And then, so there are no other nullifiers of wudu, like touch, because I've also heard, and this is from another method, but like that touching, like if one were to touch one's anus, that would nullify wudu. This is not a thing in the.
Yeah. So touching a private, yeah. So what's meant by touching the anus is like touching the, you know, the part where it, you know, where it opens, and
Right.
This would nullify, yes.
Okay.
But like touching, like for men, touching the testicles does not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even in the Maliki school, the anus is included among the private parts. So the private parts are general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Jazakallah khair. I'm done now. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
No problem. Okay. So now, الفصل واجبات الغسل. He says, so this is the section dealing with the ghusl. And so the ghusl is necessary. He said, وَيَجِبُ غُسْلُ مِنْ ثَلَاثَ أَشْيَاء. So the ghusl is the full body wash. This is mandatory when three things happen: janaba, or haid, or nifas. All right. So janaba. 1 second. He said janaba. He said for janaba to qismain. So there's two types of janaba. Ahaduma خروج مني بلذة متعادي في نومي أو يقظه بجمع أو غيره. So he says the first one is the exiting of manni, or semen, with normal pleasure in sleep or awakened state through intercourse or through other means. All right. So if a person does anything which causes semen to exit the penis, then they are now in a state of janaba. So that's not only actual sexual intercourse, but if a person, for example, masturbates, or if a person is asleep and that person had a wet dream, and you know they had that seminal emission, then the person is now in a state of janaba. And then the other one, he said, وَثَانِي الْمُغِيبَ عَشْوِتِي وفي فرجي ومن رأي في منامه كأنه يجامع ولم يخرج منه مني فلا شيء عليه ومن وجد في ثوبه منيا بأسا لا يدري منه أصابه اغتسل وعاد ما صلى من آخر نومه نامها فيه. He said, and so the other type of janaba is the entrance of the glands of the penis into the vagina. So even if a person doesn't have a sexual orgasm, if the two organs meet, if there's a jam'ah, if there's a meeting of the two organs, then both people must do a ghusl. And then he says, if a person sees himself in a dream having intercourse, but there's no mission or seminal fluid, then he does not have to do anything. If one finds dry semen on his clothes, but does not know when it occurred, he must perform the ghusl and repeat all the prayers performed from the last time he slept. Okay? So if a person has a dream, but they don't see anything, then they don't have to perform the ghusl. He said, but if a person finds dry semen on the clothes, but does not know when it occurred, so this is the doubt here, that he must perform the ghusl and repeat all the prayers from the last time that he slept. And so now, Faslu Fara'id al-Ghusli. So these now are the obligatory aspects of the ghusl. So if you can go up so everybody can see where we're at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there. Right there. So the fara'id of the ghusl, so just like we did with the wudu, we're going to talk about the fard aspects of the ghusl first before we go to the sunnah aspects and the fada'il. So the fard aspects or the obligatory aspects of the ghusl is niyatu indu shururi, right? So a person must, before they perform the ghusl, they must have the right intention. Wa fawd, continuity. Wa dalk, and this is the rubbing. Wal umum, and this is covering the body with water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these 1, 2, 3. These 4 aspects are the obligatory aspects of the ghusl. So remember, in regards to the wudu, what we had 7 obligatory aspects of ghusl. I'm sorry, of wudu. In the ghusl, we have 4 obligatory aspects, right? So again, one must make the intention, the continuity. Remember, we said the same continuity here is the same continuity which is in wudu, that one can't leave off one limb or obligatory part which must be washed long enough so that a limb is dry. So a person must be they must perform the entire act and be completely wet, rubbing. One must rub the entire body, and the entire body must be covered in water. Okay, so the sunnahs of the ghusl are washing the hand. So also, let me make one caveat here. Just like when we do the wudu with the ghusl must be done with pure water. Now, say for example, a person has been with their spouse. The ghusl must be done with pure water, so without any soap water. And then one can go back and wash themselves with soap and and things like that, and use things which makes a person smell good. But just like in wudu, the ghusl must be done with pure water which has not been altered in its taste, in its smell, or in its color. Right? So the ghusl must be done with pure water. So it's not sufficient for one to just get in the shower, grab the soap, and wash the private parts with the soap, and you do all of that after you've done the ghusl with the pure water. Then you can have a regular shower, because a regular shower is not necessarily an act. It's not an act of worship. The ghusl itself is an act of worship. And the ghusl itself with the pure water is what makes one ritually pure, so that they can do those things which are impermissible, like we said, touch the Quran or the Mus'haf, make tawaf around the Kaaba, and these things. Now, so he says the sunnahs of ghusl are washing the hands up to the wrists, as in wudu, rinsing the mouth, right? Sniffing the water into the nose, blowing the water out of the nose, washing the simach of the ears, and it is the outer ear canal. And so the earlobe, one must wash the outer inner portion. The recommended or the fadat, beginning with the washing the impurity of the najasa, then washing the penis and making the intention at that point. Washing the limbs of wudu once each, then washing the top portion of the body, washing the head 3 times, washing the right portion of the body first, and then the 7th is using as little water as needed when washing the limbs. So basically, when one does the ghusl, they would make the intention first to remove the impurity, and they would wash the private parts first. Once one washes the private parts with the pure water, then they will perform a wudu, a regular wudu, as I showed earlier. And then once one performs the wudu, and then they would wash the top part of the body, starting with the right side of the body. So one will wash, for example, the entire, the chest area, the arms, the back, the stomach, the belly button. Make sure you get the belly button, and then the left part. Again, once is what's mandatory. The second and third time is sunnah. And then one would do the lower portion of the body. Again, starting with the right, and then doing the left. Okay? And then washing the head 3 times. Okay? And he says using as little water as needed when washing the limbs. So after one has done that, now they have performed the ghusl, then they could, take a regular shower and, wash with soap or body wash, and all of those things. He said, if one forgets to wash a portion of his body or an entire limb during his ghusl, he should wash that immediately after he remembers, even as after 1 month. He said, in that case, he must repeat all the prayers made with the ghusl. If he delays washing the area once he remembers it, his ghusl is invalid. If the missed portion of the limbs was in the limbs of wudu, it was washed during the wudu, that is sufficient. So that's why we always start with the wudu first when we do the ghusl. So again, the tartib or the order is to wash the private parts, the front and the back with the pure water, and then perform the wudu, as I showed earlier, and then wash the top part of the body, starting with the right and then the left, and then the lower portion of the body, starting with the right and then the left. Is that understood?
Yep. What's the najasa?
Najasa is an impurity. So najasa, so like sperm, the manni, the madhi, the wadi, so the pre, so sperm is najasa. The pre-cum, basically, the pre-ejaculation fluid, that's najasa. The fluid which comes after, which sometimes linger, in the penis or in the vagina afterwards, that's najasa. Blood is najasa. And there's a section here we're going to talk about shortly. We probably won't get to it until next week. But in regards to, a woman's menstruation, all of those things are najasa, are impurities. Bowl. So basically any fluid which exits the body outside of saliva is considered najasa. So we're talking about janaba here. So we're talking about people who have had, relations with their spouse. There's semen and the like. So these are the things, these are the najasa, these are the impurities which must be washed away, prior to us performing the wudu and the ghusl. Is that understood?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. And I think this would be a good place to stop for the week because it was kind of a lot of material. And
I have some questions whenever you
we
get.
I said we could have a few questions, and we can start next week on the other part dealing with janaba and tayammum, and we can get into we're going to get into and I think menses. Yeah, I think we're going to get to menstruation issues for the ladies next week, describing what's considered menses, when does she perform, when is she able to perform salat after the menses, how many days is she considered on her menses. We'll cover that next week. So I think this is a good place to stop. So any questions? We got time for it.
Okay. So it says, and I think you might have mentioned this already, but I just want to make sure. It mentions washing the head 3 times, but you're saying it's still sunnah to wash the whole body 3 times, or recommended rather.
Yeah. So the rule is always going to be 1 is mandatory, 3 is the sunnah.
Okay. Does doing ghusl while after being in a state of janaba, does that count for wudu also, as long as you don't break the wudu while doing the ghusl?
Yes, because remember we do the wudu as part of the ghusl. So remember, so when we do the ghusl, we remove the najasa first from the private parts, and then we do the wudu, and then we do the remainder of the ghusl, which is basically just washing the body, starting with the upper portion, then the lower portion, the right and the left. So once a person has performed the ghusl, then they've done wudu.
Is a separate intention necessary?
No, so the intention for the ghusl would just be to as in Arabic is rafa hadatha, is to remove the impurity. So if you make an intention to do ghusl, then you do not have to do a second intention for wudu.
Okay. And then the issue with it being disliked to use too much water.
Mm-hmm.
Is a shower considered wasteful? I've heard people say that it is.
You got people who will say things, but it's really I don't consider it such, because it's really an issue of custom and availability. So of course the sunnah is not to waste water, because it's the Prophet also, he was a very particular person, he was a very careful person, and he didn't waste anything. Some of that also was because water was very scarce, and so it was not looked upon, highly, to waste water when you had to use water for, other things, and you're in the middle of the desert. I said, but now, that's not to say that we should be wasteful of water now. No, but you don't have to be, stingy with, water, with cleaning yourself, because we don't have that. We don't have that same hygiene. We don't have that same deficiency or issue of not having a lot of water.
Okay, jazakallah khair.
But Was that you understand what I'm saying? Is that sufficient?
Yeah. So if I'm in the desert, more than likely I'm going to use a bucket of water.
Yeah.
Or a small bucket. But if I'm here, as long as I'm not just like being excessive and just sitting there running the shower for no reason,
Right.
while under the intention of performing an act of worship, then
Exactly.
yeah, okay, yeah, I understand. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions?
Yes. I have a question, but it's like totally different from everything that we were like speaking about right now. If you can like answer this question for me.
Inshallah.
So yes, like because we pray 5 times a day, right? Work for those who got a job that have to like work or whatever, and even for like the mothers that have to be, let's say, out of their house and do like grocery, just being out, right? So hold on, because my question just went away. Yeah, so because we gotta pray 5 times a day, let's say if we was to get home late, how can we make this up, like all of these prayers? Like, do we have to make them up? Like, for sure we do, but like how can we make all of these prayers up? You know what I mean? Because I know like we humans, so we go through these things. We all go through these kind of things.
Yeah, so the issue in regards to make-up prayers is this: you make them up in the order that you missed. If you're at work, you should try to let your manager or supervisor know that you just need to take 5 minutes, so to perform your salat. Usually, jobs are very accommodating. If for some reason you just can't, or whatever, or you're out and about, then just when you do make them up, just make them up in the order in which you missed them. So if you missed, for example, Dhuhr, if you didn't pray it in the time it was supposed to have been prayed, say for example, it's Maghrib prayer. So you missed Dhuhr and Asr. So don't pray the Maghrib immediately. So you pray the Dhuhr and then the Asr and then the Maghrib. So just keep them in order. That's all. But we're going to talk about when it comes to the time of prayer, there's a section in there. You'll find that the times of prayer are, you have a decent window, to perform the prayers. So you shouldn't get too far behind. Like there's what's called an ikhtiyari time and a dururi time. The ikhtiyari time is the preferred time, and the dururi time is the time in which you can make that prayer, you can perform that prayer to where it's not considered like a missed prayer. We'll get to that in the section of times of prayer. But just, like I said, if you do miss them for whatever reason, just make them up, in the order in which you missed them. That's all.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, then we'll stop there and we'll pick up next week with I think the Fada'il al-Ghusl and then Tayammum, and then we'll get into the women's menstruation issues. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma aftah alayna wa anshurna bi rahmatika ya dhul jalali wal ikram wal asri inna insana lafi khusri illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.